Hi. Uh, let me let me see if this is an entirely new setup, which I just uh, I just bought. So I think I need to figure things out. I want to check if I can hear myself because I have a webcam. I'm speaking low because I have a mic in my hand, but we are not sure. So I'm going to go on my phone and do this. I just turn down the sound. It's so weird. It is a complete opposite of camera here, and it's weird. Let me hear myself. Yes, I can hear myself. It is all working out for me. Okay, so we should get started. We are reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. For now, we have been doing one chapter, sometimes it's two, but then, well, we decided that it is going to be two chapters one day because we need to finish the book and then figure out what to do with it. So we are going with two chapters at the same time. Let's go. This is such a fun setup for me. I totally love it. But also, I had to buy this setup because um, my master's university requires it. And, it was about time I got it. This laptop is the worst. We bought it, it was new, and none of us knew that the circuit of camera and mic has been lost in every way. So by the time we figured it out, the warranty was gone, the guarantee was gone, everything was just poof gone. So now here we are with a perfectly newly bought webcam and this mic that I had during the days I used to vlog. It used to be one day per week, but now it's every day until we finish this book. So let's get started. Chapter 9. I know I'm rushing it, but it is about time we rush things. The faster we do it, the more chapters we cover, and if someday we feel like enjoying ourselves, we can also go for 3 chapters. So, yes, we are actually feeling very out there today. Okay, chapter 9. I am offered a quest. Till last chapter, there were questions that if he would be offered quests or not, but today, lo and behold, he is being offered quests. Just asking, what do people think of asking children to go on quests? Okay, hold on. I actually need to um, post that I'm live. Oh my god. Why is this so difficult? Every time I do something, it is so difficult. Oh wait, maybe I can post directly since I'm on my phone. So, I've been eating chocolates that we all love to do. You know what I noticed is that people like to not come live a lot, instead watch after the live is over. So here's to hoping that they watch regardless. And yes, I do upload the links on my LinkedIn. God knows why I do that, but I do that. You know, I posted this one time on my LinkedIn that I will treat it like I'm treating my other social media platforms, post nonsense, and so I've been doing that, posting nonsense every day, trying to post nonsense every day. But yeah, most days it works. And so we are posted and ready to go. We wasted a lot of time. Sorry, guys, but it is what it is. Okay, there are a lot of wires. Let me get a bit comfortable because we are spending an hour of our lives together. I'm going to do something terrible. I'm going to put the laptop on my lap so I'm much more comfortable. So, yeah, this works way better. At least this way, I have the capability of doing everything. I used to stream on Twitch, but then the videos would just disappear there. There wouldn't be a lasting. Like in YouTube, you go into the studio and you can see your videos there, and then you decide to post it back on your channel. It doesn't work on Twitch, and it is so annoying because Twitch has good quality of camera and streaming service. It's literally a streaming service, so it has a better quality of everything. But oh well, what can you do? Okay, now again, chapter 9. I'm offered a quest. The next morning, Chiron moved me to cabin 3. I didn't have to share with anybody. I had plenty of room for all of my stuff: the Minotaur horn, one set of spare clothes, and a toiletry bag. I got to sit at my own dinner table, pick all my own activities, call lights out whenever I felt like it, and not listen to anybody else. And I was absolutely miserable, if you could wait. I assume that was plenty of noise, and my homeless look is the best look for reading books. Okay. Just when I'd started to feel accepted, to feel I had home in cabin 11 and might be a normal kid, or as normal as you can be when you're a half blood, I'd been separated out as if I had one rare disease. Nobody mentioned the hellhound, but I got the feeling they were all talking about it behind my back. The attack had scared everybody. It sent two messages: one, that I was son of the sea god, and two, monsters would stop at nothing to kill me. They could even invade a camp that had always been considered safe. The other campers steered clear of me as much as possible. Cabin 11 was too nervous to have sword class with me after what I'd done to Aries folks in the woods, so my lessons with Luke became one-on-one. He pushed me harder than ever, and I wasn't afraid to bruise me up in the process. You're going to need all the training you can get, he promised, as we were working with swords and flaming torches. Now, let's try that viper head beheading strike again. 50 more repetitions. Annabeth still taught me Greek in the mornings, but she seemed distracted. Every time I said something, she scowled at me as if I'd just poked her between the eyes. After lessons, she would walk away muttering to herself, Quest, Poseidon, dirty rotten, got to make a plan. Even Clarice kept her distance, though her venomous looks made it clear she wanted to kill me for breaking her magic spell. I wished she would just yell or punch me or something. I'd rather get into fights every day than be ignored. I knew somebody at camp resented me. It's because one night I came into my cabin and found a mortal newspaper dropped inside the doorway, a New York daily news, open to the Metro page. The article took me almost an hour to read because the angrier I got, the more the words floated around on the page. Boy and Mother Still Missing After Freak Car Accident by Elaine Smith. Sally Jackson and son Percy are still missing 1 week after their mysterious disappearance. The family's badly burned '78 Camaro was discovered last Saturday on a North Long Island road with the roof ripped off and the front axle broken. The car had flipped and skidded for several hundred meters before exploding. Mother and son had gone for a weekend vacation to Montauk, but left hastily under mysterious circumstances. Small traces of blood were found in the car and near the scene of the wreck, but there were no other signs of the missing Jacksons. Residents in the rural area reported seeing nothing unusual under the time of the accident. Miss Jackson's husband, Gabe Gugliano, claims that his stepson, Percy Jackson, is a troubled child who has been kicked out of numerous boarding schools and has expressed violent tendencies in the past. Such liar, Gabe. Police would not say whether son Percy is a suspect in his mother's disappearance, but they have not yet ruled out foul play. Below are the recent pictures of Sally Jackson and Percy. Police urge anyone with the information to call the following toll-free Crime Stoppers hotline. The phone number was circled in black marker. I weighted up the paper sorry, I wadded up the paper and threw it away, then flopped down in my bunk bed in the middle of my empty cabin. Lights out, I told myself miserably. That night I had my worst dream yet. I was running along the beach in a storm. This time there was a city behind me, not New York. The sprawl was different. Buildings spread farther apart, palm trees and low hills in the distance. About 100 meters down the surf, two men were fighting. They looked like TV wrestlers, muscular with beards and long hair. Both wore flowing Greek tunics, one trimmed in blue and the other in green. They grappled with each other, wrestled, kicked, and head-butted, and every time they connected, lightning flashed. The sky grew darker and the wind rose. I had to stop them. I didn't know why, but the harder I ran, the more the wind blew me back, until I was running on the spot, my heels digging uselessly in the sand. Over the roar of the storm, Over the roar of the storm, I could hear blue-robed one yelling at the green-robed one, give it back, like a kindergartner fighting over a toy. The waves got bigger, crashing into the beach, spraying me with salt. I yelled, "Stop it, stop fighting." The ground shook. Laughter came from somewhere under the earth, and a voice so deep and evil it turned my blood to ice. "Come down, little hero," the voice crooned. "Come down." The sand split beneath me, opening up a crevice straight down to the center of the earth. My feet slipped and darkness swallowed me. I woke up. Sure, I was falling. Was still in bed in cabin 3. My body told me it was morning, but it was dark outside, and thunder rolled across the hills. A storm was brewing. I hadn't dreamt that. I heard a clopping sound at the door, a hoof knocking on the threshold. "Come in." Grover trotted inside, looking worried. "Mr. D wants to see you." "Why?" "He wants to kill—" "I mean, I'd rather let him tell you." Nervously, I got dressed and followed, sure that I was in huge trouble. For days I'd been half expecting a summons to the big house. Now that I was declared the son of Poseidon, one of the big three gods who weren't supposed to have kids, I figured it was a crime for me just to be alive. The other gods had probably been debating the best way to punish me for existing, and now Mr. D was ready to deliver their verdict. Honestly, it's not the child's fault, is it? Why would you say that it is? Percy doesn't know that it's his fault. Why would you blame everything to the child? Even in Talia's case. Over Long Island Sound, the sky looked the inks coming to a boil. A hazy curtain to rain was coming in our direction. I asked Grover if we needed an umbrella. "No, it never rains here unless we want it to." I pointed at the storm. "What the heck is that then?" He glanced uneasily at the sky. "It'll pass around us. Bad weather always does." I realized he was right. In the week I'd been here, it had never even been overcast. A few rain clouds I'd seen had skirted right around the edges of the valley. But this storm, this one was huge. At the volleyball pit, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the satyrs. Dionysus' twins were walking around in the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everybody was going about their normal business, but they looked tense. They kept their eyes on the storm. Grover and I walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the of pin, pinnacle, pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had on my first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, two sets of cards hovering in the air. "Well, well, our little celebrity," Mr. D said without looking up. I waited. "Come closer, and don't expect me to know to you, mortal, just because old Barnacle Beard is your father." A net of lightning flashed across the clouds. Thunder shook the windows of the house. "Blah, blah, blah," Dionysus said. Chiron feigned interest in his pinochle cards. Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. "If I had my way, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done." with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel this would be against my mission at this cursed camp to keep you little brats safe from harm, Dionysus said. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron put in. Nonsense! Boy wouldn't feel a thing. Nevertheless, I've agreed to restrain myself. I'm thinking of turning you into a dolphin instead, sending you back to your father. Mr. D, Chiron warned. Oh, all right. Dionysus relented. There's one more option, but it's deadly foolishness. Dionysus rose, and the invisible player's cards dropped on the table. I'm off to Olympus for emergency meeting. If the boy is still here when I get back, I'll turn him into an Atlantic bottlemouse. Do you understand? And Perseus Jackson, if you are at all smart, you'll see that's a much more sensible choice than what Chiron feels you must do. Dionysus picked up a playing card, twisted it, and it became plastic rectangle. A credit card? No. A security pass. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a holograph, then a wind, then he was gone, leaving only the smell of fresh pressed grapes lingering behind. Imagine you smelling like wine 24/7. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I cannot put my finger on it, but I assume it's a good thing. You know, in this book, why I love Dionysius mostly because he is kind of sassy and sarcastic, as a teacher should be, as also a teacher usually is, but also the fact that he can make things appear out of thin air, wine and everything. Even though he's banned from doing that, he can still make wine appear out of thin air, cokes, food, anything that he wants to eat. And I absolutely love that. Chiron smiled at me, but he looked tired and strained. Sit, Percy, please. And Grover, we did. Chiron laid his cards on the table, a winning hand he hadn't gotten to use. Tell me, Percy, what did you make of the hellhound? Just hearing the name made me shudder. Chiron probably wanted me to say, heck, it was nothing. I eat hellhounds for breakfast. But I didn't feel like lying. It scared me. If you hadn't shot it, I'd be dead. You'll meet worse, Percy, far worse, before you're done. Done with what? Your quest, of course. Will you accept it? I glanced at Grover, who was crossing his fingers. Uh, Sir, you haven't told me what it is yet. Chiron grimaced. Well, that's the hard part. The details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storms, the storm clouds had now reached the edge of the beach. As far as I could see, the sky and the sea were boiling together. Poseidon and Zeus. They are fighting over something valuable, something that was stolen, aren't they? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. Chiron sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? My face felt hot. I wished I hadn't opened my big mouth. The weather since Christmas had been weird, like the sea and the sky were fighting. When I talked to Annabeth, and she'd overheard something about a theft, and I've also been having those dreams. I knew it. Hush, satyr, Chiron ordered. But it is his quest. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be. Only the oracle can determine. Chiron stroked his bristly beard. Nevertheless, Percy, you are correct. Your father and Zeus are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise, a lightning bolt. A what? I laughed nervously. Do not take this lightly. I'm not talking about some tin foil covered zigzag you'd see in a second grade play. I'm talking about a 2 foot long cylinder of high grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god level explosives, Chiron warned. Oh, Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now. The symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclops for the war against the Titans, the bolt that sheared the top of Mount Etna and hurled Kronos from his throne, the Master Bolt, which packs enough power to make mortal hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's missing? Stolen. By who? By whom? Chiron corrected. Once a teacher, always a teacher. By you. That's just rude of assuming that a child can steal something that he didn't even know he was Poseidon's kid. That's just rude. My mouth fell open. At least, that's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice at the last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. Usual nonsense. Mother Rhea always liked you best. Air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. All afterwards, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his very nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Now a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly. That is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your father convinced a human hero to take it. But I didn't patience and listen, child. Zeus had a good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the Master Bolt and is now secretly having Cyclops build an arsenal of illegal copies which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over winter holidays. You could easily have snugged into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. But I've never even been to Olympus. Zeus is crazy. Chiron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. Oh god. Calling Zeus crazy is one thing. Do you even hear what we call our king of the gods? I don't even want to mention his name. He's a bit petty. Indra, Bhagwan Indra. He's also the god of sky and thunder and rain, Zeus like, but he's pettier, I think. If I say this, it is going to create an uproar, so I'm not going to say anything. At least not until I'm done with Percy Jackson the book. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around us, as Grover had promised. They were rolling straight over our valley, sealing us in like a coffin lid. Uh, Percy, we don't use the C word to describe the Lord of the Sky. Perhaps paranoid, Car- Chiron suggested. Then again, Poseidon has tried to unseat Zeus before. I believe that was the question 38 on your final exam. He looked at me as if he actually expected me to remember question 38. Seriously, why would you think that we would remember questions that we read in during examinations? That's just crazy. Never once in my life have I ever remembered a question out of question paper right after I'm done with my exams. Seriously, I wrap up my answer sheet, I submit it, I walk out of the classroom, and boom, it is all gone. I hardly remember what I wrote. Don't even remember what was the question. How could anyone accuse me of stealing a god's weapon? I couldn't even steal a slice of pizza from Gabe's poker party without getting busted. Chiron was waiting for an answer. Something about a golden net, I guessed. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods, they trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler, right? I'll be honest, I don't know about this story. The only story of the net I know is when Hephaestus traps Aphrodite and Ares in one and calls the all of the other gods to laugh at them. That is the only story of regarding the net I know. So yeah, correct, Chiron said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the Master Bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war, and now you come along. The provo- proverbial last straw. But I'm just a kid. Percy, if you were Zeus and you already thought your brother was plotting to overthrow you, then your brother suddenly admitted he had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that he's fathered a new mortal hero who might be used as a weapon against you. Wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? But I didn't do anything. Poseidon, my dad, he didn't really have this master bolt stolen, did he? Chiron sighed. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style, but the sea god is too proud to try convincing Zeus of that. Zeus has demanded that Poseidon return the bolt by the summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief by the same date. I hope that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make two brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the Master Bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like, Percy? Bad, I guessed. Imagine the world in chaos, nature at war with itself, Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus and Poseidon, destruction, carnage, millions dead, Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it will make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. Bad, I repeated. And you, Percy Jackson, would be the first to feel Zeus's wrath. It started to rain. Volleyball players stopped their game and stared in stunned silence at the sky. I had brought the storm to Half Blood Hill. Zeus was punishing the whole camp because of me. I was furious. So I have to find the stupid bolt and return it to Zeus. What better peace offering than to have Son of Poseidon written Zeus's property? If Poseidon doesn't have it, where is the thing? I believe I know. Part of the prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me now, but before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the oracle. Why can't you tell me where the bolt is beforehand? Because if I did, you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Good reason. I swallowed. You agree then? I looked at Grover, who nodded encouragingly. Easy for him. I was the one Zeus wanted to kill. All right. It's better than being turned into a dolphin. Are you sure, Percy? There is still time for him to turn into a dolphin, though. Then it's time you consulted the oracle. Go upstairs, Percy Jackson, to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. Quick question. If you could, would you want to be the oracle, a fighter, a protagonist, or a planner? Which one would you like to be? Comment in the comment section. 4 flights up, the stairs ended under a green trapdoor. I pulled the cord. The door swung down and a wooden ladder clattered into place. The warm air from above smelled like mildew and rotten wood and something else, a smell I remembered from biology class. Reptiles. The smell of snakes. I held my breath and climbed. The attic was filled with Greek hero junk, armor stands covered in cobwebs, once bright shields pitted with rust, old leather streamer trunks plastered with stickers saying Ithaca, Circe's Isle, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things, severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, various other parts of monsters. A dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake's head, but the but with the horns and a full set of shark teeth, the black red Hydra head number one, it is one right. Yeah. Woodstock, NY, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the not the wrapped in cloth kind, but a human female body, shriveled to a husk. She wore a tie-dyed sundress, lots of beaded necklace, and a headband over long black hair. So basically, she was dressed like a hippie, like the stereotypical hipster. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over the skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits, as if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles. She'd been dead a long, long time. Looking at her sent chills up my back, and that was before she sat up on her stool, opened her mouth. A green mist poured from the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils, hissing like 20,000 snakes. I stumbled over myself trying to get to the trapdoor, but it slammed shut. Inside my head, I heard a voice, slithering into one ear and coiling around my brain. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phobos Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seeker, and ask. I wanted to say no thanks, wrong door, just looking for the bathroom, but I forced myself to take a deep breath. The mummy wasn't alive. She was some kind of gruesome receptacle or some for something else. A power that was now swirling around me in the green mist. But its presence didn't feel evil, like my demonic maths teacher, Mrs. Dodds, or the Minotaur. It felt more like three fates I'd seen knitting the yarn outside the highway fruit stand. Ancient, powerful, and definitely not human, but not particularly interested in killing me either. I got up the courage to ask, "What is my destiny?" Personally, I would like to know what my destiny is. I know this sounds weird, but all this time I felt like I'm lost, and finding a destiny for my own self would be a great way of knowing things. At least it clears up the path. So, yes, I would love to know what my destiny is. I am intuitive, I am everything you would think a magic creature is, but prophetic about my own destiny, I'm not that. So I hope I find what my destiny is. The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of me and around the table, with the pickled monster part jars. Suddenly, three were four men Suddenly there were four men sitting around the table playing cards. Their faces became clear. It was Smelly Gabe and his buddies. My fists clenched. Though I knew his poker party couldn't be real, it was an illusion made out of mist. Gabe turned towards me and spoke in the rasping voice of the oracle. "You shall go west and face the god who has turned." His buddy on the right looked up and said in the same voice, "You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned." The guy on the left threw in two poker chips and then said, "You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend." Finally, Eddie, our building super delivered. Okay, I think it missed. I think this is misspelled. I think it means supervisor. So finally, Eddie, our building supervisor, delivered the worst line of all. "And you shall fail to say what matters most in the end." Well, there goes the destiny. The figures began to dissolve. At first, I was too stunned to say anything, but as the mist retreated, coiling into a huge green serpent and slithering back into the mouth of the mummy, I cried, "Wait, what do you mean? What friend? What will I fail to save?" The tail of the mist snake disappeared into the mummy's mouth. She reclined back against the wall, her mouth closed tight as if it hadn't been open in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, nothing but a room full of mementos. I got the feeling that I could stand here until I had cobwebs too and wouldn't learn anything else. My audience with the oracle was over. Okay, wait. So when Percy arrived to the Camp Half Blood, he saw someone behind the curtains. It's like someone was looking at him, right? So if the oracle was sleeping, like resting, the oracle is resting. Was it the oracle who saw him, or was there somebody else who saw that? Or the oracle isn't really sleeping and just pretending so that she could have she would know more about Percy and the fate of the Camp Half Blood. Just asking. I got the feeling that I. Oh, my bad. "Well," Chiron asked. I slumped into a chair at the pinochle table. "She said I would retrieve what was stolen." Grover sat frowned, chewing excitedly on the remains of a Diet Coke can. "That's great! What did the oracle say exactly?" "This is important. My ears were still tingling from reptilian voice. She she said I would go west and face a god who had turned. I would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely return. I knew it, Grover said. Hiram didn't look satisfied. Anything else? I didn't want to tell him. What friend would betray me? I didn't have that many. And in the last line, I would fail to say what mattered most. What kind of oracle would send me on a quest and tell me, oh, by the way, you will fail? How could I confess that? No, that's about it, I said. He studied my face. Very well, Percy. But know this, the oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until the events come to pass. I got the feeling he knew I was holding back something bad, and he was trying to make me feel better. Okay, so where do I go? Who's this god in the west? Ah, think, Percy. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wants to take over. Yes, quiet. Someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided eons ago, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the deaths of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath that both of them have now broken. I thought about my dream, the evil voice that had spoken from under the ground. Hades. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. Whoa, wait, what? A scrap of aluminium dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Fury came after Percy. She watched the young man until she was sure his identity, then tried to kill him. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, especially if he has found out Percy is the son of Poseidon. A hellhound got into the forest. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill this young half-blood before he can take on the quest. Great. That's two major gods who want to kill me. But a quest too. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of Death's motives perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. Percy must go to Underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. A strange fire burned in my stomach. The weirdest thing was, it wasn't fear. It was anticipation, the desire for revenge. Hades had tried to kill me 3 times so far, with the Fury, the Minotaur, and the Hellhound. It was his fault my mother had disappeared in a flash of light. Now he was trying to frame me and my dad for a theft we hadn't committed. I was ready to take him on. Besides, if my mother was an underworld. Whoa, why? Said the small part of my brain that was still sane. You're a kid, Hades is God. Grover was trembling. He'd started eating pinochle cards like potato chips. Grover seriously needs to chill a bit. He is giving me anxiety. That's saying a lot. That poor guy needed to complete a quest with me so he could get his searcher's license, whatever that was. But how could I take him to do his quest, especially when the oracle said I was destined to fail? This was suicide. Look, if we know it's Hades, why can't we just tell the other gods? Zeus or Poseidon could go down to the underworld and bust some heads. Suspecting and knowing are not the same, Chiron said. Besides, even if the other gods suspect Hades, and I imagine Poseidon does, they couldn't retrieve the bolt themselves. Gods can't cross each other's territories except by invitation. That is another ancient rule. Heroes, on the other hand, have certain privileges. They can go anywhere, challenge anyone as long as they are bold enough and strong enough to do it. No god can be held responsible for a hero's actions. How do you think gods always operate through humans? Why? Sorry. Why do you always think gods operate through humans? You're saying I am being used. I'm saying it's no accident Poseidon has claimed you now. It's a very risky gamble, but he's in a desperate situation. He needs you. My dad needs me. Emotions rolled around inside me like bits of glass in a kaleidoscope. I didn't know whether to feel resentful or grateful or happy or angry. Poseidon had ignored me for 12 years, and now suddenly he needed me. I looked at Chiron. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along, haven't you? Important questions being asked by Percy here. I had my suspicions. As I said, I've spoken to the oracle too. I got the feeling there was a lot he wasn't telling me about his prophecy, but I decided I couldn't worry about that right now. After all, I was holding back information too. I like Percy. He's a reasonable person. He knows if he wanted to know something, he has to give back that information. I like that. I got the feeling. So, let me get this straight, I said. I'm not supposed to go to the underworld and confront the Lord of Dead? Check. Find the most. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. I think I misread. So let me get this straight. I'm supposed to go down to the underworld and confront the Lord of Dead? Check. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe? Check. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice in 10 days. That's about right. I looked at Grover, who gulped down the ace of hearts. Did I mention that Maine is very nice this time of year? He asked weakly. You don't have to go. I can't ask that of you. Oh, no. It's just that satyrs and underground places, well. He took a deep breath, then stood, brushing the shredded cards with an aluminum bit. Aluminium. Yes, that is how you say it. Aluminium. Bit of his t-shirt. Now I know why Americans say aluminum. Because of their way of pronouncing everything else. You saved my life, Percy. If you're serious about wanting me along, I won't let you down. I felt so relieved I wanted to cry. Though I didn't think that would be very heroic. Grover was the only friend I had ever had for longer than a few months. I wasn't sure what good a satyr could do against the forces of death, but I felt better knowing he'd be with me. All the way, G-Man. So, where do we go? The oracle just said to go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Where? Chiron looked surprised. I thought that would be obvious enough. The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles. Oh, naturally. So we just get on a plane? No. Percy, what are you thinking? Have you ever been on a plane in your life? I shook my head, feeling embarrassed. My mom had never taken me anywhere by the plane. She'd always said we didn't have the money. Besides, her parents had died in the plane crash. Percy, think. You are the son of the seagull. Your father's bitterest rival is Zeus, lord of the sky. Your mother knew better than to trust you in an airplane. You would be in Zeus's domain. You would never come down back alive. Overhead, lightning crackled. Thunder boomed. Okay, so I'll travel overland. That's right. Two companions may accompany you. Grover is one, the other has already volunteered if you will accept her help. Gee, who else would be stupid enough to volunteer for a quest like this? The air shimmered behind Chiron. Annabeth became visible, stuffing her Yankees cap into her back pocket. I've been waiting for a long time for a quest, Seaweed Brain. Athena is no big fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. If you do say so yourself. I suppose you have plan, wise girl? Her cheeks colored. Do you want my help or not? The truth was I did. I needed all the help I could get. A trio. That'll work. Excellent. This afternoon we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you're on your own, Chiron said. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that were never supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste. I think you should all get packing. That was the end of chapter 9. It is 9, right? Yes. My bad. So anyway, we got our first nicknames for each other, Seaweed Brain and Wise Girl. I think that is very cute. Just saying. I've read too many fan fictions and too many Tumblr posts to not ship the two. Also, I hope Grover is okay. I don't know, the entire chapter was very hectic. It was a lot of conversation, but it was in a very hectic way. And I really love how Rick Riordan is going on with the adventure and yet drops important details. Like, they have time to talk. They don't, but they still talk. I think I really love that idea. I tried that with my new book. I'm writing one. Surprise, surprise. It shouldn't be actually very surprising because I usually don't do that a lot. I'm usually a procrastinator, so this has to be a surprise anyway. Anyway, so I like the idea of dumping a lot of information in a chapter that is like, it is information related to what they're going to do, but then the rest of the information is not revealed until they are in that situation. I kind of like that about it. And I think we are getting to the part where I stopped reading. I stopped reading at chapter 11 because I assume Aries comes in chapter 11 or something. I don't know. So, yes, I cannot wait to see all the fighting and all the adventure things Percy, Annabeth, and Grover has to do. The Golden Trio. I know. I made a Harry Potter reference, but still. A trio is a trio. So let's get to chapter 10. Important chapter of it all. I don't know why I said that. I ruin a perfectly good bus. I don't know, out of context that sounds very, very, very bad. So, here we are. It didn't take me long to pack. I decided to leave the Minotaur horn in my cabin, which left me only an extra change of clothes and a toothbrush to stuff in a backpack Grover had found for me. Camp store loaned me $100 in mortal money and 20 gold drachms. Drachmas. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. These coins were as big as Girl Scout cookies and had images of various Greek gods stamped on one side and the Empire State Building on the other. The ancient mortal drachmas had been silver, Chiron told us, but Olympians never used less than pure gold. Chiron said the coins might come in handy for non-mortal transactions, whatever that meant. Come on, Percy. You're going to Underworld. You're being given more immortal money. What do you think that means? You pay up to the river Styx. He gave Annabeth and me each a flask of nectar and an airtight bag full of ambrosia squares, to be used only in emergencies if we were seriously hurt. It was god food, Chiron reminded us. It could cure us of almost any injury, but it was lethal to mortals. Too much of it would make a half-blood very, very feverish. An overdose would burn us out, literally. Annabeth was bringing her magic Yankees cap, which she told me had been her 12th birthday present from her mom. She carried a book on famous classical architecture written in ancient Greek to read when she got bored, and a long bronze knife hidden in her shirt sleeve. I was sure the knife would get us busted the first time we went through a metal detector. Grover wore his fake feet and his trousers to pass as human. He wore green Rasta style cap which because when it rained his curly hair flattened and you could see the tips of his horn. His Sorry, I was thinking of the movie Grover. The outfit was bad. His bright orange backpack was full of scrap metal and apples to snack on. In his pocket was a set of reed pipes his daddy goat had carved for him. Even though he only knew two songs, Mozart's Piano Concerto Number 12 and Hilary Duff's So Yesterday, both which sounded pretty bad on reed pipes. Oh my god, you know what? If this song So Yesterday doesn't play in the Percy Jackson TV show, I would be so disappointed. We waved goodbye to other campers, took one last look at the strawberry fields, the ocean, and the big house, then hiked up Half-Blood Hill to the tall pine tree that used to be Talia, daughter of Zeus. Chiron was waiting for us in his wheelchair. Next to him stood the surfer dude I'd seen when I was recovering in the sick room. According to Grover, the guy was the camp's head of security. He supposedly had eyes all over his body, so he could never be surprised. Today, though, he was wearing a chauffeur's uniform, so I could only see extra peepers on his hands and face and neck. This is Argus. He will drive you into the city and, well, keep an eye on things. Chiron made a joke, and none of them laughed. That's mean. That's really mean. Chiron made a good joke. I heard footsteps behind us. Luke came running up the hill carrying a pair of basketball shoes. Hey, glad I caught you. Annabeth blushed, the way she always did when Luke was around. Come on, Annabeth. Seriously, Luke. Just wanted to say good luck, and I thought, maybe you could use these. He handed me the Snickers, which looked pretty normal. They even smelled kind of normal. Maya, white bird's wings sprouted out of the heels, startling me so much I dropped them. The shoes flapped around on the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. Awesome, Grover said. Luke smiled. Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad, of course. I don't use them much these days. I didn't. His expression turned sad. I didn't know what to say. It was cool enough that Luke had come to say goodbye. I'd been afraid he might resent me for getting so much attention the last few days. But here he was giving me a magic gift. It made me blush almost as much as Annabeth. Come on, Percy. Come on. Amen. Thanks. That is so not. Listen, Percy. A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just kill some monsters for me, okay? This conversation out of context sounds very gay. We shook hands. Luke patted Grover's head between his horns, then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, who looked like she might pass out. After Luke was gone, I told her, "You're hyperventilating." "I'm not. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you?" "Why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy?" She stomped down the other side of the hill, where the white SUV waited on the shoulder of the road. Argus followed, jingling his keys. I picked up the flying shoes and had a sudden bad feeling. I looked at Chiron. "I won't be able to use this, will I?" Luke meant well, Percy, but taking to the air? That would not be wise for you. I nodded, disappointed. But then I got an idea. "Hey, Grover, you want a magic item?" Why is this so me and my best friend, though? His eyes lit up. Me? Pretty soon we'd laced the Snickers over his fake foot, and the world's first flying goat boy was ready for launch. This is hilarious. "Maya!" he shouted. He got off the ground okay, but then fell over sideways, so his backpack dragged around the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. "Patience, patience!" Hiram called after him. "You just need practice." Hiram, come on, that was not the time to call out someone being out of practice. Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawnmower heading towards the van. Before I could follow, Chiron caught my arm. "I should have trained you better, Percy. If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training." "That's okay. I just wish." I stopped myself because I was about to sound like a brat. I was wishing my dad had given me a cool magic item to help on the quest, something as good as Luke's flying shoes or Annabeth's invisible cap. What am I thinking? I can't let you get away without this. He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to me. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint, black ink removable cap. Probably cost 30 cents. Gee, thanks. Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. I remembered the trip to Metropolitan Museum of Art when I'd vaporized Mrs. Dodds. Chiron had thrown me a pen that turned into a sword. Could this be? I took off the cap and the pen grew longer, heavier in my hand. In a In half a second I held a shimmering bronze sword with double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveting with gold studs. It was the first weapon that had actually felt balanced in my hand. "The sword has a long and tragic history that we need to not go into," Hiron told me. "Its name is Anaclosmus." "Riptide," I translated, surprised The ancient Greek came so easily. Use it only for emergencies, and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case. I looked at the wickedly sharp blade. What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? How could it not? The sword is celestial bronze, forged by Cyclops, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply aren't important enough for the blade to kill. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Good to know. Now, recap the pen. I touched the pen cap to the sword tip, and instantly Riptide shrank to a ballpoint pen again. I tucked it in my pocket, a little nervous, because I was famous for losing pens at school. You can't. Can't what? Lose the pen. It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it. I was wary, but I threw the pen as far as I could down the hill and watched it disappear in the grass. It may take a few moments. Now check your pocket. Sure enough, the pen was there. Okay, that's extremely cool. But what if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword? Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist. Yes. Read the Iliad. Seriously, guys, read the Iliad. It's full of references to the stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really, the lens of which humans will go to fit things into their vision of reality. I put Riptide back in my pocket. For the first time, the quest felt real. I was actually leaving Half Blood Hill. I was heading west with no adult supervision, no backup plan, and not even a cell phone. Chiron said cell phones were traceable by monsters. If we used one, it would be worse than sending up a flare. I had no weapon stronger than a sword to fight off monsters and reach the land of dead. Chiron, I said, when you say the gods are immortal, I mean, there was a time before them, right? 4 ages before them, actually. The time of the Titans was the fourth age, sometimes called the Golden Age, which is definitely misnomer. This, the time of Western civilization and the rule of Zeus, is the fifth age. So, what was it like before the gods? Chiron pursed his lips. Even I'm not old enough to remember that, child, but I know it was a time of darkness and savagery for mortals. Kronos, the lord of Titans, called his reign the Golden Age because men lived innocent and free of all knowledge. But that was mere propaganda. The Titan King cared nothing for your kind except as appetizers or a source of cheap entertainment. It was only in the early reign of Lord Zeus, when Prometheus, the good Titan, brought fire to mankind, that your species began to progress, and even then Prometheus was branded a radical thinker. Zeus punished him severely, as you may recall. Of course, eventually the gods warmed to humans, and Western civilization was born. But the gods can't die now, right? I mean, as long as Western civilization is alive, they're alive. So even if I fail, nothing could happen so bad it would mess up everything, right? Chiron gave me a melancholy smile. No one knows how long the age of the West will last, Percy. The gods are immortal, yes, but then so were the Titans. They still exist, locked away in their various prisons, forced to endure endless pain and punishment, reduced in power, and still very much alive. May the fates forbid that the gods should ever suffer such a doom, or that we should ever return to the darkness and chaos in the past. All we can do, child, is follow our destiny. Our destiny, assuming we know what that is. Relax, keep a clear head, and remember, you may be about to prevent the biggest war in human history. Relax? I am very relaxed. When I got to the bottom of the hill, I looked back. Under the pine tree that used to be Talia, daughter of Zeus, Chiron was now standing in full horseman form, holding his bow high in salute. Just your typical summer camp send-off by your typical centaur. Argos drove us out of the countryside and into the western Long Island. It felt weird to be on highway again. Annabeth and Grover sitting next to me as if we were normal carpoolers. After 2 weeks at Half-Blood Hill, the real world seemed like a fantasy. I found myself staring at every McDonald's, every kid in the back of his parents' car, every billboard and shopping mall. So far, so good. 10 miles and not a single monster, I told Annabeth. She gave me an irritated look. It's bad luck to talk that way, seaweed brain. Remind me again, why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. She folded her cap of invisibility. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. Why? How many reasons do you want? One time my mom caught Poseidon and his girlfriend in Athena's temple, which is hugely disrespectful. Another time Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron gods of the city of Athens. Your dad created some stupid saltwater spring for his gift. My mom created the olive tree. The people saw that her gift was better, so they named the city after her. They must really like olives. Oh, forget it. Now, if she'd invented pizza, that I could understand. I said, forget it. In the front seat, Argus smiled. He didn't say anything, but one blue eye on the back of his head winked at me. Are you sure it wasn't blinking at you? Traffic showed us down in Queens. By the time we got into Manhattan, it was sunset and starting to rain. Argus dropped us at the Greyhound station on the Upper East Side, not far from my mom and Gabe's apartment. Taped to a mailbox was a soggy flyer with my picture on it. Have you seen this boy? I ripped it down before Annabeth and Grover could notice. Argus unloaded our bags, made sure we got our bus tickets, then drove away, the eye on the back of his head opening to watch us as he pulled out of the parking lot. I thought about how close I was to my old apartment. On a normal day, my mom would be home from Candy's store by now. Smelly Gabe was probably up there right now playing poker, not even missing her. Grover shouldered his backpack. He gazed down the street in the direction I was looking. You want to know why she married him, Percy? Were you reading my mind or something? I stared at him. Just your emotions. Guess I forgot to tell you satyrs can do that. You were thinking about your mom and your stepdad, right? I nodded, wondering what else Grover might have forgotten to tell me. Your mom married Gabe for you. You call him smelly, but you've got no idea. The guy has his aura. Yuck. I can smell him from here. I can smell traces of him on you, and you haven't been near him for a fortnight. Thanks. Where's the nearest shower? You should be grateful, Percy. Your stepfather smelled so repulsively human, he could mask the presence of any demigod. As soon as I took a whiff inside his Camaro, I knew Gabe has been covering your scent for years. If you hadn't lived with him every summer, You probably would have been found by monsters a long time ago. Your mom stayed with him to protect you. She was a smart lady. She must have loved you a lot to put up with that guy, if that makes you any feel any better. It didn't, but I forced myself not to show it. I'll see her again, I thought. She wasn't gone. I wondered if Grover could still read my emotions, mixed up as they were. I was glad he and Annabeth were with me, but I felt guilty that I hadn't been straight with them. I haven't told them the real reason I'd said yes to this crazy quest. Truth was, I didn't care about retrieving Zeus's lightning bolt, or saving the world, or even helping my father out of trouble. The more I thought about it, I resented Poseidon for never visiting me, never helping my mom, never sending a lousy child support check. He'd only claimed me because he needed a job done. All I cared about my mom. Hades had taken her unfairly, and Hades was going to give her back. You will be betrayed by one who calls you friend, the oracle whispered in my mind. You will fail to save what matters most in the end. Shut up, I told it. The rain kept coming down. We got restless waiting for the bus and decided to play some hacky sack with one of Grover's apples. Annabeth was unbelievable. She could bounce the apple off her knee, her elbow, her shoulder, whatever. Wasn't too bad myself. The game ended when I tossed the apple towards Grover and it got too close to his mouth. In one mega goat bite, our hacky sack disappeared, core stem and all. Grover blushed. He tried to apologize, but Annabeth and I were too busy cracking up. Finally, the bus came. As we stood in line to board, Grover started looking around, sniffing the air like he smelled his favorite school cafeteria delicacy, enchiladas. What is it? I don't know. Maybe it's nothing, he said tensely, but I could tell it wasn't nothing. I started looking over my shoulder too. I was relieved when we finally got on board and found seats together in the back of the bus. We stowed our backpacks. Annabeth kept slapping her Yankees caps nervously against her thigh. As the last passenger got on, Percy clamped her hand onto my knee. Percy. An old lady had just boarded the bus. She wore a crumpled velvet dress, lace gloves, and shapeless orange knit hat that shadowed her face. She carried a big paisley purse. When she tilted her head up, her black eyes glittered. My heart skipped a beat. It was Mrs. Dodds, older, more withered, but definitely the same evil face. I scrunched down in my seat. Behind her came two more old ladies, one in green hat, one in purple hat. Otherwise they looked exactly like Mrs. Dodds. Same gnarled hands, paisley handbags, wrinkled velvet dresses, triplet demon grandmothers. They sat in the front row right behind the driver. The two on the aisle crossed their legs over the walkway, making an X. It was casual enough, but it sent a clear message. Nobody leaves. The bus pulled out the station and we headed through the slick streets of Manhattan. She didn't stay that long, I said, trying to keep my voice from quivering. I thought you said they could be dispelled for a lifetime. I said if you were lucky. You're obviously not. All three of them. Deep mortalis. It's okay, Annabeth said, obviously thinking hard. The Furies. The three worst monsters from Underworld. No problem, no problem. We'll just slip out of the window. They don't open. The back exit? There wasn't one. Even if there had been, it wouldn't have helped. By the time that by the time we were on Ninth Avenue, heading for the Lincoln Tunnel, they won't attack us with the witnesses around, will they? Mortals don't have good eyes. Their brains can only process what they see through mist. They'll see three old ladies killing us, won't they? Hard to say, she thought about it. We can't count on mortals for help. Maybe an emergency exit in the roof? We hit the Lincoln Tunnel and the bus went dark, except for the running lights down the aisle. It was eerily quiet without the sound of the rain. Mrs. Dodds got up. In a flat voice, as if she'd rehearsed it, she announced the whole bus. "I need to use the restroom." So do I, said the second and third sister. They all started coming down the aisle. "I got it. Percy, take my hand." "What? You're the only one they want. Turn invisible. Go up the aisle. Let them pass you. Maybe you can get to the front and get away. But you guys, there's an outside chance they might not notice us. You're a son of the big three. Your smell might be overpowering." "I can't just leave you. Don't worry about us. Go." My hands trembled. I felt like a coward, but I took the Yankees cap and put it on. When I looked down, my body wasn't there anymore. I started creeping up the aisle, managed to get up 10 rows, then ducked into an empty seat just as the Furies walked past. Mrs. Todd stopped, sniffing, and looked straight at me. My heart was pounding. Apparently, she didn't see anything. She and her sisters kept going. I was free. I made it to the front of the bus. We were almost through the Lincoln Tunnel now. I was about to press the emergency stop button when I heard hideous wailing from the back row. The old ladies were not old ladies anymore. Their faces were still the same. I guess those couldn't get any uglier. Their bodies had shriveled into leathery brown hag bodies with bats, wings, and hands, and feet like gargoyle claws. Their handbags had turned into fiery whips. The fury surrounded Grover and Annabeth, lashing their wings, hissing. "Where is it? Where?" The other people in the bus were screaming, cowering in their seats. They saw something, all right. "He's not here. He's gone." The Furies raised their whips. Annabeth drew her bronze sword. Grover grabbed a tin can from his snack bag and prepared to throw it. What I did was so impulsive and dangerous. I should have been named ADHD poster child of the year. The bus driver was distracted, trying to see what was going on in his rearview mirror. Still invisible, I grabbed the wheel from him and jerked it to the left. Everybody howled as they were thrown to the right, and I heard what I hoped was the sound of three Furies smashing against the windows. "Hey, hey, whoa!" We wrestled for a wheel. The bus slammed against the side of the tunnel, grinding metal, throwing sparks a mile behind us. We careened out of the Lincoln Tunnel and back into the rainstorm. People and monsters tossed around the bus. Cars plowed aside like bowling pins. Somehow the driver found an exit. We shot off the highway through half a dozen traffic lights and ended up barreling down on one of those New Jersey rural roads where you can't believe there's so much nothing right across the river from New York. There were woods to our left and Hudson River to our right, and the driver seemed to be veering towards the river. Another great idea. I hit the emergency brakes. The bus wailed, spun a full circle on the wet tar, and crashed into trees. The emergency lights came on. The doors the door flew open. Bus driver was the first one out. Passengers yelling as they stampeded after him. I stepped into driver's seat and let them pass. The Furies regained their balance. They lashed their whips at Annabeth while she waved her knife and yelled in ancient Greek, telling them to back off. Grover threw tin cans. I looked at the open doorway. I was free to go, but I couldn't leave my friends. I took up the invisible cap. "Hey!" The Furies turned, baring their yellow fangs at me. An exit suddenly sounded like an excellent idea. Mrs. Todd stalked up the aisle, just as she used to do in class, about to deliver my F minus math test. Every time she flipped her whip, red flames danced along the barbed leather. Her two ugly sisters hopped on top of the seats on either side of her, crawled towards me like huge nasty lizards. "Perseus Jackson," Mrs. Dodd said in an accent that was definitely from somewhere farther south than Georgia. "You have offended the gods. You shall die." "I liked you better as a math teacher," I told her. She growled. Annabeth and Grover moved up behind the Furies, cautiously looking for an opening. I took the ballpoint pen out of my pocket and uncapped it. Riptide elongated with into a shimmering double-edged sword. The Furies hesitated. Mrs. Dodds had felt Riptide's blade before. She obviously didn't like seeing it again. "Submit now, and you will not suffer eternal torment." "Nice try," I told her. "Percy, look out!" Annabeth cried. Mrs. Dodd lashed her whip around my sword hand while the Furies on the other side lunged at me. My hand felt as it was wrapped in molten lead, but I managed to not drop Riptide. I struck the Furies on the left with its hilt, sending her toppling backwards into a seat. I turned and sliced the Fury on the right. As soon as the blade connected with her neck, she screamed and exploded into dust. Annabeth got Mrs. Dodds in a wrestler's hold and yanked her backwards, while Grover ripped the whip out of her hands. "Ow, ow, ow, hot, hot." The fury-eyed hilt-slammed came at me again, talons ready, but I swung Riptide and she broke open like a piñata. Mrs. Dodds was trying to get Annabeth off her back. She kicked, clawed, hissed, and bit, but Annabeth held on while Grover got Mrs. Dodds' legs tied up in her own whip. Finally, they both shoved her backwards into the aisle. Mrs. Dodds tried to get up, but she didn't have any room to flap her bat wings, so she kept falling down. "Zeus will destroy you. Hades will have your soul." "Bracas mes vesmini." I wasn't sure where the Latin came from, but I think it meant "eat my pants." Thunder shook the bus. The hair rose on the back of my neck. "Get out, now." I didn't need any encouragement. We rushed outside and found the other passengers wandering around in a daze, arguing with the driver, or running around in circles. "We're going to die." A Hawaiian shorted tourist with a camera snapped my photograph before I could recap my sword. "Our bags. We left our—" Boom! The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater on the roof, but an angry wail from inside told me Mrs. Dodds was not dead yet. "Run! She's calling for reinforcements. We have to get out of here." We plunged into woods as the rain poured down, the bus in flames behind us, nothing but darkness ahead. Whew. There, we are done with that chapter. That was annoyingly long, I won't lie, but that was a fun chapter. We finally made it to the time Percy finds out that the sword was his and his name is Riptide. Um, I'm sorry, I want to say the Greek name, but clearly I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to. And wow, the children are getting traumatized in every way. Anyway, I am tired. My face is tired. My mouth is tired. Everything about me is tired. My eyes are blurry and burning. So I will end this live stream here. Thank you so much for watching me. Let's join each other tomorrow and continue reading chapter 11 and 12. See you later. Bye.